his rank as a retired Navy captain. Now the Trump administration appears to be targeting even more of the Democrats who appear in that video. Senator Alyssa Slotkin and Congressman Jeanine Pirro have both revealed that the Justice Department is targeting them over their participation in that video. And those lawmakers do not appear to be cowed by Trump's threats. Today, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, who organized the video message to service members, released this public statement.
Last week, U.S. Attorney from the District of Columbia, former Fox host Jeanine Pirro, reached out asking to interview me because of a 90-second video that I filmed in November. The president called for us to be investigated, arrested, and ultimately hanged. And now he's using his political appointees at the FBI and the Department of Justice to follow through with his threats. To be clear, this is the president's playbook. Anyone who disagrees with him becomes an enemy, and he then weaponizes the federal government against them. It's legal intimidation and physical intimidation meant to get you to shut up. No, I'm not going to do that, because this country is worth fighting for. Our freedom of speech is worth fighting for. Our values, our core values, are worth fighting for. And right now, speaking out against the abuse of power is the most patriotic thing we can do.
And joining me now is Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. She sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. And before getting to Congress, she served in the CIA and the Department of Defense. You are clearly not going to back down, and putting that video out today and kind of announcing to the world that you had been notified about this investigation makes that clear. And I want to get into why that isn't so important and why it's so important for people to follow your lead who are future targets. I just want to first start. You've talked about the impact on your family and just on your life from being threatened by Trump posted online calling for you to be hanged, and the threats that you have received and had to deal with over time. I know you're not backing down, but you're a human being. How are you dealing with all of this on a personal level?
Oh, I mean, look, I wouldn't wish this on anyone else. This is not how our American system is supposed to work. And I think at this point, the president and the people around him know that when he tweets that you should be hanged, you shouldn't be surprised when thousands of people call threatening you. And I think that changed the life for me and for my family, and 24/7 security and bomb threats at my home and my parents being swatted in the middle of the night. But I think this is part of the thing he's trying to do. It's a tactic to intimidate you to be quiet. And I'll be honest with you, when your family and your staff are at risk, I'm on the tougher side, but you start to think like, look, I signed up for this. Other people around me didn't, so maybe I need to just tone it down. And I think over the past month, it just became very clear to me, along with lots of other people who have come before me, that that's the point. They're trying to intimidate you to be quiet so that others are dissuaded from doing the very same thing that you have done. So they use physical intimidation. They also use that sort of the legal process to intimidate you, getting a lawyer, paying for a lawyer. It's just a side of politics I didn't anticipate I'd ever see, but he is using to weaponize the federal government against people. And if you can do it against a senator, God knows what he can do against a private citizen, a journalist.
I just want to restate, I mean, you spent decades working in the Defense Department for the CIA. You are no stranger to difficult circumstances, to war zones, to threats. And this is just a new type of that from the sitting commander-in-chief. For people who are catching up, and I know a lot of people are paying close attention to this, I know you've talked about how you were first contacted after that video by the FBI counterterrorism unit, a division you worked closely by. We knew that back in December, I believe. And we just learned overnight that you received a letter from Jeanine Pirro. Is there more you can tell us about what was in that letter? Was there any explanation or any details about what this was about or why they were investigating it?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, whether it's the FBI and now, the U.S. Attorney for D.C., they're doing what Trump asked them to do. Trump said over and over a dozen tweets, they need to be investigated, they need to be arrested, they need to be tried for sedition, they need to be hung. So they're acting that out. We're trying to talk to them. It's through the lawyers right now. There's not a part of me that believes this is in good faith. It was a 90-second video. It's done in public. If you want to know what I did, I put it on a video. That's why the president got pissed. But they are using this to try to grind you down so that you just keep yourself quiet, sit on your hands, and wait for the storm to pass. And I'm just not going to do that.
It is, and just to restate, the video, which I think everybody watching has seen, was reminding servicemen and women, people serving our country, they should not follow illegal orders. And that is something that you're reminded of when you serve in the military and serve this country. It has not been an issue like it is today in the same way. This is clearly a pattern. We heard from Congressman Jason Crow today as well. Obviously, Senator Mark Kelly has also been targeted. You all have come out and not been silenced. Are you coordinating how you respond? Are you talking to each other about it? How is that all working behind the scenes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, we did that video together because we know each other. You know, we all had service or military background. It creates kind of a kinship between us, and many of those folks I've come up through the ranks with since we ran for Congress the first time in 2018. And so, yes, we talk to each other, we coordinate. Obviously, Mark is in a different, Senator Kelly is in a different situation since he's coming from the military side. What happened in the last couple of days came on the civilian side for those of us who are not former military. And so, yes, we're in close contact. But, you know, everyone's got to make their own decisions for their own families, their own lives. And I think, you know, that's, to me, when I saw the Jerome Powell stuff happen this week, when we've seen what's happened to other senators, people like Adam Schiff, when we see what happens to other members of the Fed, it is a tactic. And look, think about what the Trump administration has done effectively with our universities, with our legal community, with our corporations, with politicians. They have falsely let themselves believe that if they do what he says and keep quiet, that'll keep them safe. And it's the exact opposite. That is a playbook that I've seen repeated over and over and over again in other countries that I served in abroad. You cannot beat these guys and sort of think it's all going to be normal if you just are cowed by what this administration is doing. And I think we need to build some momentum around pushing back in a very aggressive way.
It is the background you have, the background Senator Kelly has. I mean, you are familiar with the trends of authoritarian regimes and how they suppress their people. And I have no doubt that is impacting how you're approaching this. I started the show talking about this a little bit as well. I mean, there was the House of a Washington Post reporter was raided today, and we don't know what the warrant looks like. We don't know all the information about what they had. This is a reporter, though, which I think is interesting context, who was a resource for federal employees who wanted to share what was happening within the government. You've seen leak investigations. There have been in the past. There is somebody right now who they are holding. What do you make of that? What did you think when you saw that news this morning?
Well, look, I mean, anyone who's in the national security world knows that, you know, things get leaked. And the people that leak that classified information should be held accountable, right? I think it's interesting that there's someone who they've arrested on the contractor side, right, who had a security clearance, who had access to this information. It is not legal to leak classified information. And so we've had generations of Democrats and Republicans that go after federal government employees or contractors who leak. What we don't have is going after the journalist who receives that information. It's been just a common value that with our appreciation for freedom of speech, a journalist doing their job, sniffing around, trying to understand and do sort of oversight articles on departments and agencies, they look for information. They protect their sources. They print that information. I can't tell you, I worked on Iraq for most of my career. During the Iraq War, there were oodles of people who were leaking. It was wrong, but you never prosecuted the journalist. And I think particularly given this journalist's access to federal government employees, clearly, you know, like, this is an administration that holds grudges, that gets pissed off, and then directs the federal government against that person. And that, to me, is what's different. Going after the leaker, go after them. As a former CIA officer, they deserve that. They swore an oath. But that journalist, unless she's herself has committed a crime separately from this, it's just not how we've handled freedom of press issues.
And we don't even know what their degree of contact, whether there was contact. We don't have any details on that even. Senator Alyssa Slotkin, I just want to, what you're doing is not easy to do. It is not easy to be in public life and receive threats on your family, on your staff, and being out there is incredibly